I'm 86. The brutal truth is, I'm more invisible now as a widow than I ever was as a wife. You see, when Walter was alive, I had a role. Now I just have a label. Let me tell you what happened. It started with the silence. After he died, the house got so quiet it hummed. I'd sit across from his empty chair and feel like I was disappearing too. At the funeral, people asked our son David how he was holding up. I was standing right there. I was the one who found Walter. But I'd already begun to fade. The calls and visits slowed. David and my granddaughter come, but it's polite. They ask if I need anything. I need someone to see me, not just check on me. I wore a bright red coat to the store once, trying to be noticed. The cashier just asked for a banana code. I didn't know it. People sighed. I went home ashamed. Then I met a boy on a park bench. He was crying over a chemistry test. I gave him a tissue. We sat. He said, "Thanks, ma'am." For 10 minutes he saw me. Just a person on a bench. That small moment changed everything. I went home and opened Walter's closet. I found a box of my old things. A poem I wrote. A seashell. He kept a box of me. The me from before. She was someone. I bought a notebook. I started writing one thing I saw each day. A dandelion in a crack. A tired smile. I wasn't waiting to be seen anymore. I was practicing seeing. That made me real to myself. So I asked David to set up this camera. He was confused, but he helped. Now I'm telling you. The truth is, the silence isn't empty. It's space. I was always somewhat invisible. Now that invisibility is mine. It's my canvas. And I am here. And I am here. But I need to tell you how I got here. You see, after that moment on the bench, I felt a crack open inside me. A little light got in. I went home, and the quiet felt different. It wasn't just Walter's absence, it was my own presence, waiting. So I did the thing I'd been too scared to do. I opened his closet. Not to clear it out, like David kept gently suggesting. Just to be near his things. His sweaters were still hanging there. They smelled like him, that clean wool and peppermint smell. It made my heart ache. I sat on the floor, right there in the closet doorway, and I just breathed it in. Then I saw the box. A simple cardboard box, pushed to the back behind his shoes. I pulled it out. It was heavy. I opened it, and my breath caught. It was full of me. My old college newspaper, with a poem I'd written circled in pencil. A smooth grey seashell from our first trip to Maine. He'd kept the map from that trip too, with my notes in the margins. and a photograph. I was maybe 22, my head thrown back, laughing at something. My hair was wild. I looked so free. I sat there on the floor, holding that picture. I'd forgotten her. That girl who wrote poems and laughed with her whole body. Walter had seen her. He'd kept her in a box. All these years I thought I was just the wallpaper. But he had a whole box of the original paint. It hurt, but it was a good hurt. Like waking up a foot that's been asleep. That girl in the photo, she had things to say. So I went to the store the next day and I bought a notebook. A simple, spiral-bound thing. I decided I wouldn't write about grief. I would write about seeing. I started small. The next morning I wrote, "The light through the kitchen window makes a bright square on the floor at 10:15 a.m. It looks like a welcome mat made of sun." It felt silly, but I did it again the next day. Mrs. Henderson's cat sat on the fence and watched a bird for 10 full minutes. Neither of them moved. It was a standoff. Then I started writing what I saw when I went out. The bus driver, a man with kind eyes, gave a tired smile to every person who got on. I wrote that down. I saw a dandelion growing straight up through a crack in the supermarket parking lot. I wrote, "You're stubborn. I like that." I wasn't writing for anyone to read it. I was writing to prove I was still looking. The act of seeing something and writing it made me feel real. The notebook was my proof of life. I wasn't a ghost. Ghosts don't notice the way the light moves. This went on for weeks. The notebook filled up. One Thursday, I had the community centre committee. Marge was going on about her angel food cake again. Bernard was snoring softly. And instead of feeling like a whisper, I just watched them. I saw how Marge's hands shook a little when she lifted her teacup. I saw the careful patch on Bernard's sweater elbow. I wrote about them in my head. And suddenly, I didn't feel so invisible. I felt like a witness. That's when the idea came to me. The camera. If I could witness my own life, maybe I could declare it. I called David. I said, "I need you to help me set up a camera." He was quiet for a second. "A camera? Mom, what for? Is this one of those computer scams?" I almost laughed. "No, David, it's for me. I want to tell a story." He drove up that weekend. He was confused, but he helped. He fumbled with the cords, his big hands looking clumsy. He kept asking, "What story, Mom?" I just said, "My story." He hasn't asked since. But for that hour, he saw me. Not as a problem to solve, but as a person with a plan. He saw me thinking. That was a gift. That was a gift. But here's the thing. After he left, after the camera was all set up and pointing at this chair, I sat down to finally tell my story. And I couldn't. I just stared at that little red light. For days. I'd make a pot of tea, sit here, and nothing would come out. I felt like a fraud. Who was I to tell a story? What was my story anyway? Being a good wife? Being a lonely widow? That's not a story. That's just a description of a shelf that used to hold something. I almost called David to come take it all back. But then, last Tuesday, I decided to just talk to the empty room. I said, "My name is Margaret. I'm 86. And I started crying. Not quiet tears, huge, ugly sobs that came from a place so deep I'd forgotten it was there. I cried for Walter. I cried for the boy on the bench. I cried for that girl in the photograph who wrote poems. I cried because I was so angry. I was angry at Walter for leaving me here. I was angry at David for being busy. I was angry at the world for walking past me. But mostly, I was angry at myself. That's the hardest part to say. I was angry at myself for letting myself disappear, for mistaking being needed for being loved, for thinking wallpaper was a good enough thing to be. Walter didn't make me wallpaper. I did. I chose the quiet support. I chose the refilled bowl. I thought that was love. Maybe it was. But it was also hiding. I remembered a specific day. It was our 40th anniversary. David and his family were here. Walter was telling his usual stories, the ones I could recite by heart. Everyone was laughing. I got up to clear the plates. Chloe, my granddaughter, she was about 12 then. She followed me into the kitchen. She said, "Nana, don't you ever get tired of just listening?" I patted her hand. I said, "Oh, honey, someone has to do the listening." But she looked at me, really looked, and she said, "But what do you want to say?" I didn't have an answer. I just shooed her back to the table. I think that's when she stopped seeing me too. I had become a function, a listener, a plate clearer. Sitting here in front of this camera, I finally heard her question. What did I want to say? I wanted to say I was scared. I wanted to say I missed my own voice. I wanted to say that loving Walter was the best thing I ever did. But somewhere in all that loving, I lost track of Margaret. And he's gone now, and she's the only one left. And I have to find out if she's worth seeing. So I cried until I was empty, and the silence came back. But this time, it felt different. It didn't feel like absence. It felt like a room after a storm, clean, quiet, waiting. The cost of what I lost was myself, but the cost of what I'm finding, I don't know that yet. The cost of what I'm finding, I don't know that yet, but I'm starting to. Here's what I learned sitting in this quiet. I was wrong about love. I thought love was about disappearing into someone else's needs. I thought if I made myself small and useful, that was the ultimate gift. But that wasn't a gift to Walter, and it certainly wasn't a gift to me. It was a withdrawal from my own account, And one day, the balance was just 0. Love should be two people standing side by side, both fully visible. Not one person standing slightly behind, in the shadow. Walter, bless him, he would have listened, if I had ever really spoken. But I was too busy speaking his language, the coffee, the pills, the folded paper, to remember I had my own tongue. That boy on the bench, he didn't need me to be useful. He just needed me to be there. Present. That's the lesson. Presence is louder than service. When I gave him that tissue, I wasn't performing a role. I was just being a human who saw another human in pain. That's all any of us want, at any age. To be seen as a human, not a job title, not a relationship status, not a problem to be managed. I spent 60 years thinking my value was in what I could do for others. My value is in my being, in my noticing, in this breath, right now. So my advice, especially to those of you my age, is this. Stop performing. Just be there, in your own life. You don't have to wear a red coat to the grocery store. Just notice the color of the apples, really see them, and then maybe say something to the person next to you. Those are a beautiful red, aren't they? It's not about being interesting. It's about being interested. That's how you reconnect the wires. That's how you step out of the shadow. And to the families, the sons and daughters, the grandchildren, I'm not angry anymore. I understand you're busy. The world pulls at you. But when you visit, put the phone down, just for 10 minutes. Don't ask what we need from the store. Ask what we're thinking about. Ask about a memory we haven't told you. You might be surprised. We are not just repositories of your childhood. We are people, right now, having thoughts about the rain, or a novel, or the strange bird at the feeder. See us. It's the only thing we truly need. You still have time. Maybe not decades, maybe not even years, but you have now. And now is enough. This moment, this breath, is enough to begin. You don't have to write a memoir. Start with a sentence. Today the sky was the color of a robin's egg. That is an act of defiance against invisibility. That is you planting your flag in your own life. The hope isn't in some big dramatic change. It's in the accumulation of small, witnessed moments. They add up. They become a life you can feel yourself living, not just one you are watching from a distance. The silence isn't your enemy. It's the room where you can finally hear your own voice. And it turns out, my voice is still here. It's a little rusty, but it's mine, and that's why I'm talking to you. If these words from an old woman in a quiet room have meant anything to you, do something for me. It's not for me, really. It's for the next person who feels like a ghost. First, if you're watching this on that YouTube, tap that subscribe button. It sounds silly, but it tells the algorithm, that's it. It tells it that voices like mine matter. that stories from the quiet corners are worth hearing. Ring the little bell, too, for notifications. That way you'll know if I ever get brave enough to do this again. Give this video a thumbs up, a like, if anything I said resonated with you. It's a small signal, but in this vast digital world, it's a way of saying, I see you. But more importantly, go down to the comments. Don't just scroll past them. Write something. Not for me, but for yourself, or in response to someone else. Tell me one thing you witnessed today, a thing no one else might have seen. The way the light fell, the expression on a stranger's face, a memory a smell triggered, or just say hello. That comment section can be a bench in the park if we make it one, a place where we acknowledge each other's presence. And if you know someone, a parent, a grandparent, a friend, anyone who might be feeling this slow fade, share this with them. Not as a lesson, but as a conversation starter. Say, this made me think of you. How are you, really? Thank you for listening, for giving me this space to find my voice. Now go and look at the world and at yourself. The view is worth it.